What's up, A2 students? Pastor Philip here checking in. Hey, it's week 6 of our 6-week journey that took a little longer than 6 weeks, but that's okay because it's been good. We've had fun. So, hey, first off, how was Six Flags trip? Y'all had a good time? I did. I loved it. Hey, let me brag on you guys for just a second. Y'all are the best. I want y'all to know it. You are the absolute best. You guys really showed what it means to be followers of Jesus. Your character was shown. Like you guys, you were everywhere we asked. We had no problems. You guys loved each other well. I can't brag on you guys enough. I love you so much. Thank you guys for being so awesome. And hey, thanks for letting us have an awesome time at Six Flags. Let's do it again. So today we want to go straight into our 6-week journey. Today's question, week 6, is this. Can God use me? It's such a simple question. Can God use me? You ever wondered about your purpose? Probably the question that I have asked to me the most is, hey, Philip, how do I discover my purpose? How do I find my purpose? How do I live out my purpose? What is my purpose? Over and over and over and over again. So let me pose the question right to you. Hey, have you found your purpose? Have you stepped into it, or have you discovered it? Let me tell you about a time in my life where I was trying to discover my purpose and I was trying to figure out what I was made for. And I really ran into some roadblocks and questions. See, I'd been a good person and lived a good life and had done all this stuff, but all of a sudden I found myself in a homeless shelter. And you have to understand, I came from an amazing family with all the opportunity in the world. I'd played college football and I had all this stuff, and everyone had always assumed Philip would be successful and fine and all this kind of stuff. But now I found myself in my mid-20s in a homeless shelter with nothing to my name, not one thing to my name. I had burned every bridge I had relationally, and no one could trust me because I had done everyone that loved me and that I loved wrong. And so at this point, at this transition in life, the question that I kept coming back to is, God, can you use me? What if I was making the wrong choice? What if I had made the wrong choice? What if where I was going was not the right decision? God, can you still use me even though I've been a crash dummy? That's where I've been. It's almost like this. God, can I miss your purpose for my life? Is it possible that I've done so much wrong that I have missed what you have for me? Well, church, students, let me encourage you with this. No matter how old we get or how long we've been in a relationship with Jesus, the enemy will always try to distract us from our calling by attacking our identity. Let's always remember that. See, God gives us a calling and gives us a purpose and places it on us, and it's there. And He knows the end from the beginning and the beginning from the end. And so, like, He is secure in His decision. But here's what the enemy does. The enemy tries to come in and make you start questioning all of that, make you question, could this be true? How could this be true? Could I have missed you? What is this? What is that? He's attacking you by making you question your identity. So let's always remember that we are children of the King. Like, we are children of God. We wear His name on our jersey. He's our dad. He's our father. He's for us. We have open access and full right to everything that's His. So let's read some scripture. Let's get in it. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 out of the NLT says this. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ so we can do the good things He planned for us long ago. Hey, notice in this verse, God speaks to our identity before He ever speaks to the things we would do. The enemy knows this. Like, the enemy understands this. So he tries to distract us with what we do or what we don't do until we completely forget who we are. So the enemy comes at us and he goes, see, you're not doing enough, loved by God. You're not working hard enough. You're not doing enough. Or you've done too much for God to still love you. So he's trying to separate us from the Father. He's trying to build or create a divide between us and God. He's trying to confuse us. He's trying to make us miss out on the fact that we are a child of God. God's not looking for a bunch of do people, do boys or do girls. God's not looking for someone who's just all the time just doing, look what I can do for you, God. Like, that's not His heart. God's heart is, I love you because you're mine. and that's it. It's not contingent upon anything. God's love for us is contingent upon the fact that he is our Father. Our calling is simply this, our identity lived out. God is so good. Let's say it again. Our calling is just this. It's our identity lived out. That's why we say when you know who you are, you'll know what to do. So A2 students, can God use you? The answer is yes. And here's how I know it to be true. Number one, God's grace. God specializes in using imperfect people. How do I know that God can use you? Because God is full of grace and he specializes in using jacked up people like me and like you. He chooses to do it this way. God's grace is cleansing from my past and it's empowering for my future. Hey, if we were perfect, we wouldn't need God's grace. It's so crazy. God delights in every detail of who we are. And God's glory shines even brighter and even more vibrant in our weaknesses. So God's not limited by our past. God's purpose for our lives is not shut off because of our past. Listen, our past can be our prison or it can be our platform, right? Y'all hear me say that all the time. It can be our prison or our platform. But let me tell you a few people in the Bible that we can read stories about that made some massive mistakes in their life, in their past, and it could not stop the purpose that God had put on their life. Their mistakes that they had made did not define where they were going. It did not hinder them from doing everything God created them to do. It actually set them up to be a bigger voice for Jesus. So you've got Saul. Saul was a murderer who killed Christians before he was on the road to Damascus and changed his name into Paul. And Paul actually wrote a majority of the New Testament. So Saul, killing Christians, has an encounter with God, changes his name to Paul, majority of the New Testament, and is literally one of the examples that we talk about most. God uses everyone. Here's another one. Noah, right? We all know Noah. Build your boat, Noah. He was a drunk who protected creation during the flood so that God could actually repopulate the earth. Noah was a drunk. And this is who God chose. In the middle of his junk, he had mistakes and issues, and God said, no, I choose you to be the exact person I want to repopulate this earth, to walk out my plan for this earth. Hey, how about Abraham? We all heard of him? Listen, an old man birthed Isaac who would bring forth the lineage of Jesus. Abraham was old as everything. This dude was old, like old. He was done. His time was up. And God was like, I can still use you. And he actually used Abraham to birth Isaac, which creates the lineage of Jesus. So good. How about Moses? Everybody heard Moses, who set the Israelites free, right, from the Egyptians. Moses was a stutterer. Like, he had a speech impediment. And God used him, even with his speech impediment, to speak to Pharaoh, encourage, almost force Pharaoh to let the people of God go. Hey, ladies, how about this? How about Rahab? Rahab was a prostitute who also carried out the lineage of Jesus. Like, these are amazing stories in the Bible. How about David? King David, we've all heard of him, an adulterer. He was a murderer who became known as a man after God's own heart and was part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. Come on, somebody. The list goes on and on of imperfect people that God chooses to use. Hey, let's be excited in the fact that God chooses imperfect people to do his work. Galatians 2:20, my old self has been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So can God use me? Yes, he can use you. How do I know it? Number 2, God's love. God has established your worth. Worth is always determined by what you're willing to pay for something. Come on, this is good. Despite the price tag, worth is always established by the buyer, the one who purchases. So your worth is not set on any action or anything you can do. Your value is strictly based upon what God is willing to spend on you. And let me tell you something. God saw you valuable enough that he was willing to send his son to take your place and die your death. God saw you so important that he was willing to climb up on a tree and give his life because you matter and you are that valuable and he loves you that much. Isaiah 53 verse 5, NIV says this, but he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. God purchased you with the blood of his son Jesus because he considered you of such great worth. Hey, A2 students, can God use you? Yeah, he can. How do I know it? Because God's timing. Number 3, God's timing. God has set you apart. Acts 17:26 in the NIV. From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. Listen, before you were even born, God established the time and the place that you would live. He knew that you would be in 8th grade in 2019, going to Berry Middle School. He knew that you would be in 11th grade right now, about to start your 11th grade year at Oak Mountain High School. Like, he knew exactly when and where. He planned it all because his timing is perfect and he has set you apart. He knew what family you would be in and where you would live. He knew every detail of your life before even one of them came to be. He has set you apart for such a time as this. Hey, listen, you don't have to wait until you get to college, until you have a family. You don't have to wait till you get older to be used by God. You have something to offer the world right here and right now. You have the ability to love God and to love people. Come on. You are valuable. You are needed. God's timing is perfect. And come on, the time is right now. The first and second commandment are love God and love people. So how can you practically love God? By loving and serving the people around you. When you are faithful with the little, he will give you so much more. So here's the encouragement. Let's just practice on loving the people around us and showing them the love of God and loving his people, which in turn loves him. Those are a couple ways that God can use you right now in this time. Right now. We don't have to wait. Come on, right now. So why does all this matter? When you realize that God has made you unique, you no longer have to compare yourself to other people. You don't have to wait until you're old to find if you have purpose. You can find opportunities all around you right now to make a difference. So hey, invite the Holy Spirit to guide you and show you practical ways to show the love of God with your family and friends and teammates and teachers and whoever is around you. Hey, whether it be through a smile, through your time, through just tutoring with somebody or studying for finals or meeting with them or getting coffee during the summer or inviting someone to come spend the night with you. Hey, you can show the love of Jesus wherever you go. A2 students, yes, God can use you, and yes, he will, and yes, he wants to. You are valuable. You matter to the King. You are his child. And it's the perfect time to start right now. So come on, there it is. Guys, I love y'all so much. Y'all have an amazing week. Hey, we're off next week, July 4th week. We're off Wednesday. No students. We will not be meeting, so enjoy it. We're also off this Friday for small group is off. Hey, we're going to take about a week break. We're relaxing, all right? Guys, I love y'all so much. You're the best. Holler at me if you need anything. Bye, guys.